Hello there, I've managed to pick myself up a rather beaten up Atari 800 XL. One of my impulse eBay purchases. When I saw it in the pictures it actually looked quite good. By the time it arrived to me it was in bits, because let me tell you, a couple of rolls of newspaper is not good packing material. So unfortunately it suffered a little bit of damage in the post, but I'll go through it now. So when it arrived, the case had busted open at the bottom, and yeah, it's got a chunk missing out of it there. I think I've managed to find most of the bits. No, there's a bit of plastic. You may or may not see it on the camera, but there's a big crack that runs here. And I've already taken the back screws out. And the motherboard is completely loose. In fact, every mounting point for the motherboard is broken. The whole board shifted over in transit and it's damaged the switch as well. So a little bit of work to do. So what I want to do now is just take it out of the case, strip the case down and assess how much damage has been caused really. And hopefully the damage has been limited to the case and there's no big cracks in the board or anything, but I don't know yet. So I'll have a little look. Just ground myself. Yeah, I've not even had to unscrew this. The mounting posts are still bolted to the board. They come completely away from the case. Yeah, I've got some corrosion there as well, so this is going to take some work. I'll have to take the RF shield off to have a proper look at the board, but I can't see any cracks in it yet. Means nothing. Put that to one side. And I have a pile of parts that fell out of it. So I think job number one is a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. So I'm going to clean up the case with a little bit of alcohol and I'm going to see if I can glue some of these parts back in. I'll see how I get on. Yeah, so not great. So back support for the board broken. Broken on the other side. Big piece missing in the side. And all of these mounting points at the top, they've all sheared off. That's cracked. And the crack's gone right across. Top piece is a little bit better. So I've lost one of the case mounts and there's a chip there as well. I think I've got most of the pieces, so well, I think before I do anything else or even bother looking at the main board, I think I'll just try and see what I can salvage with the case. So I'm going to break out the super glue and I'll do that off camera because me and super glue, we don't get along and I usually end up gluing my fingers together and the language is horrific and nobody needs to hear that. So hey, I'll continue recording when I've made a bit of progress. So I've glued it all back together and it's not perfect, but I think it's good enough. Case all seems to fit together correctly as it should. Everything seems nice and solid. So I think I'll stop whinging now about the damage, because it shouldn't have happened, but it did happen, because people can't pack things properly. But never mind, it did happen, so I'll stop bleating on about it. I think I'll have to do something about the yellowing on it, because that's annoying me now. So I had two thoughts about that. First of all, do I sand it and paint it just to try and hide some of the blemishes on the side? And then I thought, well, as I've said before, my computers, they're not shelf queens, so yeah, fine. If they've got a few marks on them, it's not the end of the world. So I don't think I'm going to bother doing that. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is I'll retrobrite it. So I've got some peroxide and I'll put it in a bag and I'll put a full spectrum light over it. Only concern I've got there is, well, I'm a little concerned that the peroxide might damage the super glue that I've used, so I might have just glued this all back together and it might be absolutely fine. And then I could retrobrite it and it might all fall apart again. So thinking about it, what I probably should have done is retrobrited first and then repaired it, but I wasn't thinking that way at the time. I just wanted it all back in one piece. But I'll try it with the top cover first, because there was only a couple of broken parts on there and they'd be fairly easy to repair if the peroxide does do some damage. I'll just see how it goes. Anyway, I'll get set up. Right, slightly different tack this time. Use a box. And I can get that to seal up. Yeah. Right, let's give it a go. Right, let that cook for a couple of hours. Right, I'm in a slightly better mood now. So the case is back in the correct number of pieces it should be, and the peroxide's done its job, so yeah, it's looking a lot better. It's never going to be perfect, but, well, better than a whole. So the problem I've had is the pieces didn't just break out, they twisted and then they broke. So trying to put the pieces back into the case, they didn't completely line up as they should have done, but well, never mind. It's looking a lot brighter now. Everything seems firm, so I don't think the peroxide's damaged the glue. So I think I'm done with that. I can put that to one side and concentrate on the rest. Actually, while I'm here, I think I'll just reassemble a few bits into the top case. I think the fewer parts I've got floating around, the better. Right, I'll make a start on the keyboard. I don't think I need to do too much to this, just take the keys off, give them a clean, put them back on really. There's a little bit of yellowing on the keys, but it's not too bad, and I don't really want to use any peroxide on them with them being brown keys, just in case they do some damage. So I think just a clean will be fine. So, oh yeah. Right, they can be washed. I'll give this a little clean. It's already pretty good, though. It does look to be in really nice clean condition, which is unusual for a keyboard, but yeah. Little wipe down with IPA, it should be fine. I'll just get some of the fluff out of it. Better. Right, my keys are in soak, so while cleaning up, I'll turn my attention to the main board. Now, when I first got this, first thing I did was power it up, which I probably shouldn't have done, considering it had been smashed and had holes in it, but I did. And it worked 50% of the time. So sometimes it would power up fine, other times I was getting a blank screen. Power light was coming on, but that's all. And the power switch was very, very stiff, and that's since locked up completely. That won't even move at all now. And that's damage caused from whatever impacted it. The whole main board had broken away, and it had damaged the switch. It had smashed into the side of the case. So I'm hoping the blank screen problem might just be down to that, but there could be damage on the main board as well. It could be the power supply, I don't know. But I'm going to take this RF shield off now and we'll have a look inside and see what, if any, damage is there. Can't see any cracks. That's a good sign. Yeah. No damage obvious anyway, so maybe I've got lucky. Okay, so what I'll do then, I think I'll go through, replace these electrolytics. That one's quite bulging, so quite the bulge in it, so I'll change that definitely. I'll change them all. Clean it up with some IPA, and then I'll have to see what I can do with that RF shield, because it is, well, it's quite rusty in places. I'll see what I can do with that. Right, when I ordered the capacitors, I did so by looking at the service manual, so I haven't actually looked inside here first, so hopefully I've got all the ones I need, but we'll see. I'll just take my time and I'll start swapping these out. Make sure I'm grounded, and I'll start changing these. So the power switch I've got a replacement for, but I couldn't find anything that was exactly the same. This has got a slightly longer plastic cover on it, but I'm wondering if I switch that for the original, if it'll fit, then aesthetically it should look the same. So I'm wondering if I can just pop this off. Maybe. I'll do this off camera, this is going to be a bit fiddly. Yep, two parts are compatible. Just prise these two tags open slightly on either side. Old cover off, new cover on. And you'll never know the difference when it's all back together. Wonderful. I'll get that installed. Right, so the switch. Yeah. It looked the same as the original, apart from this extra little piece here, which I did switch over. But it's not. It's actually slightly lower. So when I fitted the switch to the board with the original end cap on, you couldn't actuate the switch at all, which is fine unless you actually want to switch it off at some point, in which case it becomes a problem. So I've had to put the original back on. But then I had the problem that it wouldn't fit in the case. It's actually too wide to go through the hole in the case. So off it came again, and I've filed it down. So hopefully it'll fit now, but what a faff. Never mind. Hopefully it'll all work. So board's all recapped. I found some modifications here. So there's a resistor soldered onto that RAM chip. And I'm sure there was something else. Oh yeah, there's another resistor piggyback in there. I assume factory modification, but who knows. So I've given it a little wash with IPA as well, so it's looking a bit brighter. These three capacitors here, they're bipolar capacitors, so if you are going to recap one of these, just bear in mind that you probably will need those as well. I don't know if it varies on revisions, but yeah. That one, 10 microfarad, it should have been an axial cap. I didn't have one, so I've just modified a radial to fit and put some insulation under it. And this one over here, this is the one that was bulging. So, brand new one now. Hopefully that's the end of the problem, and hopefully it's not an indicator of another problem elsewhere, but we'll see. Right, I'll get the heat shield, not the heat shield, bloody spaceship. Right, I'll get the RF shield reinstalled and get it back in the case. Assuming when I glued things back together I got everything lined up properly, this should fit back in, but we'll see. That switch will go in. That one's a bit off centre, but it's gone. I think power switch is working okay. I think we're in. Alright, I might as well make a start on putting the keys back on now. I'll start with the space bar. So when I first got the machine, the first thing I did, foolishly, was put power to it, which, considering the state of it, was probably not the wisest thing I've ever done, but I did. And it worked about 50% of the time. The light would always come on. Sometimes I'd get a picture, sometimes I'd get a blank screen. I don't know what the cause of that was. I don't know if I've got some faulty chips, possibly. Maybe it was a bad capacitor. If it was, well, that should have been resolved now. Could be the power supply, and I think these do have a reputation for being a bit fragile. And I've tried to open it up. There's no screws on it. It seems to be sealed shut. I'm fairly certain that's non-serviceable. So I'm going to replace it. I just don't think it's worth risking using this, given the age of it. So it should output a steady 5 volts at 1.5 amps. And what I do have is a switching power supply, standard 5 volts. This will output up to 2 amps, so we're covered. It's actually what I use for my Amstrad CPC. So this has the, is it the 1.2 millimeter jack? 2.1 millimeter, sorry, yeah. And I still want to use this for my Amstrad, so I don't want to just lop the plug off it. So I've bought one of these. It's a piece of wire and a socket, so it'll go in there. And I'm just going to cut the plug off this and solder it into this. And that way I've got an adapter cable, so I can use the same power supply for both of the computers without any modification to the power supply itself. And while I'm at it, I think I'm going to power this up and just have a look at it on a multimeter and just see what this is actually outputting. Something I should have done in the first place, but yeah, that's the plan for replacing the power supply. Right, so just for morbid curiosity, I want to see what this power supply is actually outputting. So let's have a look at it on the multimeter. I'll assume that's positive. Oh, I'm on AC, that's right. Bear with me. .25 volts, yeah, I'd say that was absolutely fine. So that's good news, I suppose. It means I haven't been using a dodgy power supply. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to use it, but I'll keep it. Might come in handy for something else. I mean, I'm not going to use it for this machine, but I'll keep it. It might come in handy for something a little less voltage sensitive, if I need a transformer for something, so yeah. Okay, good news. Still using the switched one though. Right, so I've connected it all up to the TV, and well, I'll show you the issue I'm having. I'll switch it on. Yeah, red screen. However, if I hit reset, yeah, boots up just fine. So I've got a problem somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it apart again. I'll power it up, and because I don't have any diagnostic equipment yet, just an amateur, although I do intend to buy some. I'm just going to feel and see which chips are getting the hottest, and see if that gives me a clue as to what the problem is. Yeah. You know, right when you think you're getting somewhere, but never mind. Right, let's let that run for a minute and see what gets warm. Nothing. Right, so it's at about 15 minutes and things are warming up, but nothing's really cooking and getting that hot. So, if I had some better diagnostic equipment, this would be easier, but I don't. I can't afford it at the moment, it's as simple as that. I do have an absolute stack of 4164 RAM chips, and I've got some sockets. I might just swap the RAM out for brand new old stock and just see if that makes a difference. Right, so here's where I'm up to now. All the RAM chips have been taken out. New sockets are installed. I've also pulled all the ceramic capacitors just in front, simply because when I was getting to the second to last RAM chip removal, I found 2 of them had actually fractured. So I'm thinking the board didn't survive as well as I thought it had due to its impact. Maybe that was the problem all along, I don't know. Anyway, I'll fit some new RAM chips. I'm going to order some replacement capacitors because I don't think I've got any of those. And when they arrive, I'll power it up and hopefully it'll work. Or if it doesn't, hey, at least I've eliminated something. So yeah, that's where I'm up to. So I think I'm going to wrap this up just for tonight. I'm going to go and have a drink, I think, and maybe a little cry. I haven't decided yet. Hopefully I'll have a bit more luck tomorrow. Oh, it's been weeks now since I started on this, but I think I have some success. Oh yeah, it boots. It's fine. So 14 replacement chips later, and I have a working board. Right, I'll take you through it. So I read up on a few forums and looked for the most likely suspects first. And I started with the RAM. I thought, well, why not? I've already got some of those chips, so it won't cost me anything to find out. So swapped all that out. And while I was doing that, I found some of these capacitors are broken, 2 of these. So I've swapped those out as well. Couldn't get the axial ones that were originally fitted, but they've gone in okay. That's what I had to work with. Anyway, new RAM, no joy. So, right, okay. Next most common failure. CPU. Picked one up for about £3-4 plus postage new. Same results. Same, sometimes it would boot. Most of the time it wouldn't. I was getting a red or a black screen. Thought, right, okay. Next likely cause, PIA. That was not cheap actually. All the chips in this were really cheap apart from this one. I think this was about £13, but yeah. Still no joy. Ay. Tried the OS ROM. Got one of those pretty cheap. Same problem. So, had a look at the logic. Swapped out a logic chip there, no joy. Another one here. Now this one, did it have originally in there? Yeah, it was an M4050BP, but I've replaced it with this RCA chip. Now I've checked all the data sheets and it is the same logic. I think this chip will actually handle a slightly higher input, so it might be a more sturdy chip, but it's the same logic and it should have worked, and it does. Finally, replaced the timer chip, and that's when everything changed. Suddenly, it was working first time every time, no problems at all. So I think, and I'm guessing here because the service manual I've got doesn't cover this revision, and I'm finding it really difficult to find a schematic for this, but I think that holds all the reset lines for the chips low on power up, and that's probably what was not happening. So that would explain why sometimes it would boot. But if those reset lines have been left floating, well, the chips could be starting up in any old state, and that's why most of the time it wouldn't boot. So, yeah, the world's most common integrated circuit, and that was my problem all along after replacing everything else. Yeah, I got 5 of those plus 5 sockets for £1.99, including postage. That's how cheap they were. So, but hey, yeah, it seems to work now, so I can put it all back together. Right, we're back together, so let's put it through some test. So with the 800XL, it's got a built-in test function, so you just type buy, and we're in. What have we got? Memory, audio, visual, keyboard. Let's start with memory. Right, just cycling through, but it's not found any faults, so audio visual. Now when I desoldered the, just be quiet, right? Yeah, when I desoldered all the chips off the board, I was very, very careful. So everything came out in one piece and should be reusable. So I've got plenty of spares. What have we got next? Keyboard. Start, select. Option. Reset or help will take me back to the main menu. No response from break. The break key didn't seem to work. Or it does, so in basic, so I won't worry about it. Excellent. Well, that's fully functional now. It's not perfect. It's got a few battle scars, but it will have. But hey, it's fully functional. It looks respectable. I'm pleased. Yeah. So I'm done with this now. Although I'm not done with the system. I've got a cassette deck to go with it, which I know doesn't work because when I opened it up, the drive belt fell out in one big clump. And I've got a dot matrix printer for it as well, 1029 or something like that anyway, which I haven't even tested yet. So that'll be my next job, I think. But I think just for now, I'm going to wrap up this video. So yeah, thank you very much.